Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, bots and cons, to Tech Talk, the officially unofficial Transformers TCG podcast. Now, we do have something a little bit different for you today. I'm joined, as always, by Scott of VectorSigma.info, but we do have a little more weight on the official side today. We're joined by Drew, and for you visual listeners, followers on YouTube, you can see his magnificent mug up on the screen at the moment. So, how are you doing, Drew?
I am doing absolutely groovy, gentlemen. Thank you for having me on the show again.
Oh, thank you for coming out. I'm hoping that, just a real quick thing, I'm hoping where you are that you're avoiding some of this disastrous weather at the moment.
I am, and it's really funny because, brief aside, I love books that are written by Larry Niven and Jerry Pournelle when they're writing together only. And Lucifer's Hammer is about a terrible, terrible weather and end of the world type effects, and the Pacific Northwest is just sheltered from the whole thing right now.
Are you giving us some precognizant information here?
No, if I was a precog, I would be in a different job.
That very true, very true. I think we all would have much different lines of work if that were the case. So we did have the opportunity to bring you on, and again, thank you for joining us. We wanted to, pick your brain about a number of different things relating to, I don't know, maybe the new set that's around the corner and other things that are happening.
You mean Rise of the Combiners?
Yeah, I've heard some things. It's been around in a few different outlets, a few different other content creators, and also Wizards officially has said a few things about it.
Just a couple. It releases on March 1st, so we're right in the swing of all of the content reveals. So this is a great time to be on your show.
Absolutely. So Scott, I kind of wanted to turn it over to you first because I know you had a bunch of burning questions, and I do as well. But before we dive into the questions, Drew, is there anything you wanted to get out in front of on there that you wanted people to know right away, or any other comments before we start firing stuff at you?
One comment, two notes. Note one is the release date is March 1st for most of the English language territories where we release this game. So the United States, Australia, the UK, and most of the other places. Secondly, we are running with the help of our WPN team, which is the team here at Wizards that supports friendly local game stores, a sign up so that stores can sign up through their Wizards Event Reporter system, which is how they run stuff on that end, for a demo kit for Transformers, which will arrive right around the release of Rise of the Combiners, and it is to help stores and provide them with materials so that they can be equipped to teach new folks who are interested in Transformers how to play in their store, because we've been seeing a lot of wonderful interest. And store owners and managers and folks who are listening, just go into WER and you can find that.
Awesome.
And then the thing is, guys, thanks. I really appreciate you having me on the show. It's really fun.
Oh, and again, it's wonderful to have you. It's funny you bring up that demo option because that is something that was on my list of things to ask about. So it's good that we already covered that. It's something that I was very excited about, which may seem innocuous to a lot of people out there, but it is a great step in getting things into the hands of people so that they can do those sort of things to grow the player base or assist in growing the player base.
And that is exactly our intent. Starting a new trading card game is a complex endeavor. And with Rise of the Combiners, one of the things that we're focusing on is really solidifying the strong foundation we built with the Wave 1 product launch in friendly local game stores. There's been great supporters of this game, stores who are carrying it are doing very well, and this is another tool in their arsenal to support their in-store communities. And over time, you're going to be seeing more of that from us.
Awesome, and that's great to hear. So I guess that kind of segues a bit, Scott. Did you want to take the first question here?
Well, I guess I'll segue into that. I guess since you opened the door, is there anything you could talk about with any of that additional support?
I will say one thing. It is a little bit too early to talk about things that would be happening in Wave 3 or stuff like that. But
sure.
but I can talk about the philosophy here a little bit more.
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
We want to equip stores to build strong communities of Transformers TCG gamers, and there's been a lot of store owners and a lot of store managers and staff and people who are fans and working together to build communities in their stores. And that's the philosophy of where we're coming from. So you're going to see things that are more like community building and equipping stores to do that, and just get that right out now. Less of things like tournaments with big prizes. That kind of stuff is more of a convention thing for us.
Okay.
And local game store is much more community building, where people can come together and share their love of Transformers at the local game store where they get their product. Not
to paint you into a corner there, Drew, so feel free to tell me if you can't answer this one or if it's crossing a line somewhere. Would something, an analog to an F&M, be closer to what people should be imagining when you say that?
It is a little too early to talk about details at that level.
Okay.
That's the kind of thing that we will be announcing what kind of programs we're talking about here. But that'll be more during the roll up to the future waves, past Wave 2.
See, you're teasing us with all the spoilers for Wave 2, and now we have spoilers about other future things, man. I'm really excited, but it's one of those, I'm getting ready for Christmas. I want to open my presents, but I understand we got to wait, and that's completely fair.
Holiday season is really far away. That's like...
Yeah.
It's like my dad used to say, keep the Christmas season in your heart all year. Come on.
That's fair. That's fair.
And with the way the weather's been, it feels like it's never going to get away from it. But anyway, we're not to digress. Anyway, so Scott, let me hand it back to you, since I started to take the ball away from you there.
No, it's fine. So our audience is generally, the hobby audience, the more competitive type gamer. So like everyone that we will listen to this probably has a pretty good idea of everything that's been spoiled, everything that they know about the set thus far. So I just kind of had some general questions then of a more deep dive nature on Rise of the Combiners. So,
yeah, go for it.
So some people have expressed concern about the speed of radical mechanic being with the Combiners, and I was just wondering what the thought process was of putting them in so fast into the game, and other than them just being iconic Transformers abilities, I was just wondering what the thought process was.
I am happy to dive into that. So when we last spoke, and I think the other venues that I've been talking about the philosophy of game design and set design with Wave 1, one of the things that's been a pretty frequent point that I've come back to is the first set of a new trading card game needs to create a sort of core box of mechanics that are easy for new players to understand, because at that point everybody's a new player. But then also simultaneously define the larger box of expectations. And in Wave 1, that was things like Nemesis Prime's ability and Cosmos's ability, Sunstorm, points that look at cards that in just by themselves point out the exciting possibilities of the game system. And those were very intentional pieces of game design slotted into Wave 1 to show players who were familiar with TCGs or other tabletop gaming and had that experience, and who could blaze right through the core game system into a level of proficiency faster than, say, someone who didn't have that background, that this game could go in places that would excite them in ways that challenge their skill, their deck building, etc. And in Rise of the Combiners, we chose the Combiner as a theme, and also the mechanics that became Combiners, specifically because this was the place where we reward all of the tabletop gamers and Transformers fans who really want something that gets deep fast. The metagame in Wave 1 is less broad. There are just fewer cards.
Of course.
But there are a very circumscribed group of mechanics in there. And in Wave 2, that's why we have 3 new keywords. And that's why we have Combiners in that very interesting and kind of more complex way to make Combiner teams combine into the Gestalt character. And that's why we have the combiner teams having different ways of playing and combining. This is all where we go out to that larger box and we start painting in the corners.
Well, that sounds awesome to me. As a follow-up question, since it sounds, or the way you had described everything both previously and just now with the groundwork that was being laid Wave 1 into Wave 2, should we, and this is also a future-looking thing, so again, feel free to tell me I gotta wait, but I get excited. Should players be anticipating that future waves will be this dense as far as this many, maybe not literally the exact quantity of keywords or mechanics or whatever, but in whatever complex way that this is the level we're looking for each future set from here on out?
So sets will be more like Rise of. If you look at this spectrum where Wave 1, just plain old TCG booster packs have towards one end of the spectrum. It is very unlikely that you'll see another set at that lower level of complexity.
Gotcha.
Rise of the Combiners is amongst the highest level of total new mechanics and complex themes and sub-mechanics that we would squish into one set.
Gotcha.
But sets will be much more on that level than they will be on the Wave 1 booster packs. In some sense, you can think of Wave 1 booster packs as sort of establishing the base and foundation for the game system, and everything else is going to build up from that, and in different directions. So some sets you may see very tightly themed groups of mechanics like combiners, where combiners are very tightly themed. You need and n number of characters of that team to fully play that mechanic. Some future sets may have a little bit less tightly grouped together. We call it parasitic design.
Gotcha.
Whereas some cards must be played with other cards in order to enjoy and enable the new mechanic. Some future sets will have new and interesting mechanics that are less parasitic and play better with older sets. And that is a rhythm that we like to get into when we do game design, because it provides a variety of experience, a variety of
absolutely
to the future. So I think that answers your question.
Oh yeah, definitely, and it definitely fleshes out a lot of things that I think are important for people to hear exactly both what to anticipate, and so that it's setting expectations at I don't want to say reasonable but appropriate levels kind of thing. So it's like you said, we went from, it probably also feels, or at least I do sometimes feel when I'm looking at some of the cards, like, wow, there is just so much when I take a step back and think about Wave 2, and we haven't even seen the entirety of the set at this stage. But by the same token, we're also comparing it to what we had, which, as you accurately stated, it was intended to get that baseline in, get people comfortable and able to grasp what's happening. So now we have a firm place to jump off from.
Right, and I mean, you guys haven't even seen triple changers yet.
Ooh, I you get me excited, man. I gotta get this set in my hands. I'm really excited about this set. But Scott, let me hand it back to you, since both Drew and I have been going back and forth. So you got another question you want to fire before I start geeking out about and hypothesizing about what triple changer might be showing up, or triple changers, plural?
I'm not going to answer that question.
Okay. I got to try. I have to try.
Go for it. I will happily listen to you prognosticate.
Okay. Well, before I do, because believe me, if you've listened to our shows, and our listeners will tell you, I love to hear the sound of my own voice. My wife will tell you as well. Let me get Scott roped back in. So, Scott, what's the next thing on your list?
So I don't mean to seem like I'm harping on the point, but when we talked last time, we talked about satisfying multiple audiences between the toy collectors, kids, and the hobby gamers.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have any concerns that there might be too much in the set that some of the non-TCG people might take in?
They're not concerns. It's risk assessment, right? So it is in very businessy game designer terms, benefit analysis, adding in this many mechanics. How many people are we going to satisfy? How many people are we going to mystify? I want to mystify fewer people than we satisfy in a vast ratio. I'm not super concerned. And part of that is because a game like Transformers, where the core game system is very relatively easy to understand, even if you're a younger player. One of the things that we note for games with younger players is that kids tend to self-regulate. There are things that they're interested in, and there are things that they're not. And a kid who cares primarily about seeing their favorite characters may, and frequently, certain kids just don't even care about what the cards say. They just play the base game with the numbers.
Right.
That self-regulation is a great aid when we're putting things in. So I think it's a healthy number of a healthy amount of complexity for the second set. Although I will say we did have lots, and we cut, I think, at least. All right, let me backtrack for a second. When we're building a set or any big release, as you might imagine, there's vastly more game design ideas than actually make it into the final product, right?
Of course, right.
And we winnow down some ideas, fall by the wayside on their merit or their lack of merit. Great ideas, tough to execute, whatever. Others, and we end up with this list of stuff that's viable. And there is almost always viable game design that doesn't fit into this set. So the thing you do with it is you push it into a future set.
Right.
And it goes into that initial design bucket. And then it goes through the same process there. Does it fit thematically? Is it good? So there were at least 2 really good things that didn't make it into Rise of the Combiners, not combiner related, other mechanics that have been pushed into future products.
Yeah, I mean, to me, there's sub themes, there's so much complexity with this that I've seen so far. I mean, just having another color gives you access to more dual cards like that Windblade can use and things like that. There's just so much depth even when it's not a complete theme, I think.
Yeah. For example, Soundwave and his mini cassettes were originally in the set, and they got pushed out to a future product because they don't really fit with triple-sided cards, so they have a different way of expressing that. So that there was 2 different things side by side that was like, we're diluting the main theme here this way. So we pushed Soundwave and Buddies out to a future product.
I think that's reasonable. And you had mentioned before, both speaking with us and with other content creators, that doing it right and doing it appropriately is very high on the team's list. And that's something I can get behind. So everything you're saying definitely makes sense.
I know there's a lot of really, really, and I'm one of them, diehard Soundwave fans out there.
There's an army, I guess, fittingly enough. So I guess I'll take the next one that I wanted to post you, and it's kind of segues since we are talking about the design and how you came to create this set. So that's kind of what my question is. How did you come to create this set? How far back did you know, I guess, specifically in relation to the game being created as a whole, that set 2 was going to be combiners? Was there any point where wave 1 was going to have a combiner mechanic, or?
No.
Okay.
No. So going back to that establishing the base and foundation of the game system, combiners is too left field compared to the base for it to be part of the first release. So we knew that it was never going to be part of the first release.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But there was a short list of Transformers sub-themes for the second set.
Okay.
And part of it was informed by fan love of characters. And,
of course.
And some of the combiners are, as you know, well loved by fandom, and so we want to make sure that we are introducing into the games characters who have for which people have great affinity, so fandom is rewarded. And so that was one of the things that led us to combiners. The other one was the mechanical aspects of the design, and was we knew that we could do and wanted to do triple-sided cards in Transformers TCG, and so we talked about playing with card size,
right,
and we want to continue that surprise and delight. And one of the ways that we continue the surprise and the delight with the cards themselves was get triple-sided cards into the mix really soon. And so I would say those three things together led to the decision for combiners to be set 2.
Awesome. Now, I know Scott had some questions specifically relating to those triple-sided cards. So I definitely want to hand that over to him briefly, or maybe not briefly, but in a moment. So the question I had relating to it is totally out of my head, so I'm just going to hand it to Scott. My apologies. It wasn't something I originally had on my list, and then as you were speaking, I said, oh, I got to ask him this, and then I got lost back in what you were explaining, so sorry about that.
There's been, I don't know if it's concern, just questions about the folding mechanic in general and how, I guess you could say, strong the cards are. Is there anything you can allay any fears about that?
Yeah, so I will say that it was fully vetted by our QA department. And so QA in tabletop gaming means a little bit different than what it does in digital gaming. QA here is the group that vets the materials and the production process so that we are producing quality goods. So one of the things that is not super evident from the videos that John Shork has been posting is that the foil layer on the card, which is the combiner gestalt side of the opened 3-sided card.
Yes.
That foil is the basis for the joint. And so that helps keep that joint strong over time and over repetitive opening and closing. So
we can safely assume everybody on your side ended up putting things through their paces. Do you have any funny videos of somebody like trying to tear phone books in half, but it's actually just a bunch of triple changers?
That's a great idea. No. No. But yeah, it's pretty clean. I know that. Here's another example. Very early on, people were expressing concern that there were ragged edges on the joint.
Okay.
And I think you've seen from the video that is a super clean cut, precision cut, in the same way that our cards are precision cut. It's done in a very similar manner. So no, we put this through its paces.
Understood. As we would come to expect at this stage, because everything that we've seen from the game so far has been high quality. So I have no reason to suspect otherwise going into Wave 2.
Now, it is cardstock. Just as you can tear a regular Transformer in half, you can tear one of these in half.
Can I jump in for a moment?
Oh, hey, John Shork.
Ooh, we have another special guest.
I just wanted to say about the folding. I've found it helpful to think of it more like a hinge than a fold or a crease or anything like that. It's reinforced. It's built into the card. It can be really difficult to see even from videos, even up close. But it's super natural. I didn't really know what to expect and was kind of blown away. Folding card doesn't sound very natural, but it feels very much that way. And we had some other people ask about, well, what if I fold it the wrong way? And essentially, you really have to try. Like, if you're folding it the wrong way, you're going to before any damage can occur. Unless you're going for some sort of land.
Yeah, you're applying enough pressure that would destroy a regular non triple-sided card if you're doing it that way.
Yeah, I'm really excited for people to actually get their hands on these because they're really fascinating and they're a lot of fun to play with too. Especially if you got idle hands, you need something to play with.
As someone who collects the Transformers toys, I'm very, very curious and excited to hear the tactile feel of these cards. Like, I'm certainly looking forward to it.
Yeah, they're super cool.
Very soon, March 1st.
Yep. Well, that's reassuring to me. How do you feel about that, Scott?
Yeah, that helps my fears a lot because having played card games for so long, I know degradation can happen. So
It's helpful to be, like I said, think of it less like a fold and more like a hinge. And I don't know about you, I haven't replaced a lot of doors in my life.
We've been doing triple sided. This is not our first foray into sided.
Right.
It was developed for the Duel Masters game, which we've been putting for over a decade in Japan, and that's where triple sided card technology premiered. And this is a different evolution of that same innovation.
Gotcha.
So this is not the first time we've been doing this thing.
Sorry about that, everybody. If anything sounded a little bit choppy there, we did run into a little bit of technical difficulties. I think we got everything ironed out, but we wanted to make sure that you could hear everybody crisp, clear, and clean. So when I'm still here. We didn't let him go because mostly we've been rambling, mostly me. But Scott, when we last left our heroes, I think I was trying to hand the baton off to you for the next set of questions. So did you want to pick that one up? Or would you prefer that I jumped in?
No, you can go for it.
Okay, so one of the things that's, I guess, less lore-centric is more surrounding the rules announcement that just came up, which for us on the more competitive side was really exciting. Maybe not for me quite up there with spoilers, but it was really, really exciting. And Scott, feel free to jump in because I know this is also one of your things. So one of the first things that came to mind, Drew, when I saw that was great. We're going to get a lot of the lingering questions that everybody kind of knew, but it's good to have an official answer for these things. And it's also an outlet for, obviously, as set 2 comes in, when new complications come in, new wrinkles that present themselves. Is there an intent in the future, or should we be expecting anything along the lines of an official compiled rule book with, the comprehensive rules with phases and all that, all the diagrams that I guess nerds like me love?
Not in the way you're thinking about.
Okay.
So the official rules are always and the official rules are the rules document that's posted on transformerstcg.com, and that needs to be accessible to all of the different player types that we were talking about before.
Absolutely. And
the supplementary document, which is the FAQ, which is a living document, as is the main rules document, and will get updated. Like when Rise of the Combiners comes out, the new product page will have an updated rules document and an updated FAQ. That is the place for the more detailed questions that tabletop gamers are more likely to encounter than more casual gamers.
Right.
And so I would go there. But I think this is a great time to plug John's new rules questions initiative.
Yes.
John, you want to talk about that for a second?
Yeah, so a lot of rules questions coming in from all angles and creating these really unwieldy, unhelpful, cavernous threads on Facebook, for example.
As they are wont to do.
Yeah, and which is completely understandable, but we wanted to try and circumvent that and make it so people not only have a place to send all their questions, but we can, in an organized fashion, post all the answers so that people can get answers to their questions, and then people who are looking for answers can maybe find them, without having to dig too deeply.
Right.
For rules questions and for any other questions you may have, we set up an email address. It's transformersquestions@wizards.com. And we will answer any question that we're able to. And then the way we're doing it is I'm getting together with the designers and just going through the questions once a week, and then we'll post all the answers for that week on Friday on our Facebook page.
Awesome.
That document informs the FAQ. So a lot of questions that people have for cards that we revealed for Rise of the Combiners, we're answering those questions in our weekly updates, and then that lets us know where we need to be more precise in the FAQ document.
Right. And that feedback loop, I guess, is very important. And it's definitely something, as I started out with the initial question, that it's very exciting to me, and it's definitely reassuring also to everybody out there who had questions. Okay, the team is involved. They are interested in what's piquing everyone's curiosity or making all the gears maybe a little bit of smoke from coming out of people's ears as they're coming up with certain scenarios.
Yeah, there are definitely some super unlikely scenarios that in game terms that of course we're happy to answer. For example, it is totally technically possible if you get to like turn 13 or whatever in the game, or oh god, even longer than that, to get 2 Volcanicus's in play. You could absolutely do that. You just have to attack with your Grimlock, and then get another Grimlock, and then attack a lot, and get a lot of characters, and play 2 Enigmas. Yes, you can do it, but it's really unlikely, especially if you have an opponent trying to win the game. Say,
absolutely,
and we're happy to answer those questions. One of the main reasons that we moved to this new system that John just described is with all the new players who are coming into the game and significant amounts of excitement that's being generated by Rise of the Combiners, we stopped being able to handle the volume of questions on an ad hoc basis.
I could certainly see that being the case. And I guess at the end of the day, that's a good problem to have, because
sure is.
Obviously it says, hey, there's a lot of new bodies that want all these awesome new cards that are coming out soon.
Yep, it was a very happy problem to have to.
I mean, I was pretty impressed with the 2 questions that were answered right away, so that really impressed me.
I mean, you're going to see us continuing to drop into social media and answer questions, but this is the primary way for answering lots of people's questions in a timely way.
Gotcha.
There's another part of your question that I do want to, which is we've seen lots and lots of requests for a physical rules document printed in product, and there was one, and you're going to see a little bit more of that.
Ooh, you cut out a little bit at the end there. Was there an ETA on that, Drew?
No, there wasn't.
Okay.
No, I think you heard me okay.
I gotta try. I gotta ask. So there was one, well, maybe not one other question, but one other large question that I know, Scott, you wanted to get to. And since I don't want to keep Drew and John all afternoon, I know they have very important things to get to. Scott, you were going to ask about some other future-related stuff?
Yeah, we had talked before about like the possibility of like just a 2019 or whatever roadmap. I was just wondering if you could say anything about anything in the future. I mean, we already talked about it a little bit in the beginning. I was just wondering if there's anything else we can put out there.
Not specifically. And when we do reveal the next wave, you'll understand. Think back now to this question, you'll understand.
Oh, okay, cool.
Completely fair. One other ancillary one that I wanted to try and squeeze in, again, we'll bounce it back to Scott for anything else that he happened to have. I'm a huge fan of the Transformers video games. I play a lot of video games in general. War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron are some of my favorite games all time, and not just because of Transformers. I think they were really well put together. They told an interesting story about a set of content that I love anyway. Is there any intent to either have a mobile version of this game, or is there, to a slightly different end, will we see anything like a gatherer type resource for online deck building, so at least people can filter for certain keywords rather than look at just images?
So, yes to the second question, in the form of an app.
Awesome.
And to the first question, that's not something we comment on. Fair.
Completely reasonable.
But, you'll hear more about the app pretty soon.
That is very exciting.
And that is a companion app. Just to be fully clear and transparent, it's a companion app, not a digital version.
Understood. And that is what I was envisioning for that second half of the question, because as somebody who has, and I'm not exaggerating, dozens of decks sitting in, well, one floor below me in my basement right now, and some of them cards scattered all over my desk, my wife will be a lot happier if there's less cards strewn and I could just look it up online, kind of thing.
It needs to be handy, right?
Right.
Like, the utility of the thing is the key here. Does it help you do what you want to do? Do it. Which is mostly when you're sitting at the table. Can I access the rules in the FAQ in a way where I just go one place and I know that they're right there? If I need to look up, all of the Dinobots, can I do that really, really quickly and see what their card text on some other Dinobot? That's the kind of thing that we're looking for there.
That sounds spectacular. And
can I read? Yep. And you'll hear more about that from us in a little bit.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. So, Scott, let me punt it back to you because that got me really excited. So, need to calm down.
I just had one last quick, I guess, strategy question, you could say. So, I know the set hasn't been revealed yet, but I guess I'm just wondering, how playable have you found the combiners to be in playtesting?
Pretty playable. It depends on the combiner team, right? The combiners are not all combination, and that is by intent. And you can kind of see that in some of the overall power levels of their combined forms. But in general, we want combination to be achievable. We don't want it to be a pie in the sky thing that happens so infrequently that it is laughable. And we don't want it to be something that is a guaranteed action that will always happen every single turn, every single game that you play a combiner team. And so we think we found a fairly comfortable combination rate. I guess I just made that term up.
Hey, it makes sense to me.
Right? We want successful combination to be memorable, and we do want it to be meaningful. So when you have achieved combination, we want that to be an impactful point in the game. And because it's a little bit difficult, there's work that you must do as the pilot of any given deck to do it, we want it to have an impact on the game when it happens. So I would say that once you achieve combination, we've found and we've designed in, you are more likely to win if you go into it in a situation where you have some health on the combiner. If you've got one character left in play and 5 KO'd characters, and you attempt to do Optimus Max, and you combine Optimus Maximus, and he has 2 health left,
we're probably gonna have a bad day.
You might have a bad day, but if your plan works, they're strong. They're strong characters.
It's definitely, from the outside looking in, and obviously you guys have significantly more information than we do at this stage, and probably for a while as we acclimate ourselves as players to the new set and the new environment. It definitely feels like a very narrow line to walk where it has to feel awesome when you do it, but it can't quite be an I win button by doing
right.
so. So
you've nailed it on the head there. That's exactly what we want it to be. We want it to be satisfying, meaningful, a little bit of a challenge, but not too much of a challenge, and quite impactful, but not my opponent throws up their hands in despair when I do this to him or her. So it was a challenge that the game design team, I think, really, really nailed well.
Yeah, it's something that is shaping up. I mean, it was going to be interesting because, hey, Combiner set 2 already, and you mentioned triple changes earlier, and Scott had also brought up all of the other mechanics when we went over all of the things that are stuffed into this first expansion set. I can't wait. I know I'm being a broken record, but Scott will tell you, I'll sit and talk anybody's ear off about Transformers at every single event. When I go out to other stuff, my family's tired of hearing about Transformers. So I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah, and one of the things that I was really excited about, able to number of character cards and battle cards that were off, perpendicular to the combiner theme. For example, the card that I just revealed this morning, when this goes live, is Grapple. And Grapple's ability is completely sideways to a lot of the things that goes on in the set. But that triggered ability of when you have all 4 colored pips do something cool, and takes one of the new the green pip and uses it in a different way that we thought was really exciting. That's the kind of game design I.
Were you, because you've mentioned before, Drew, that your favorite Transformers, was he getting held back for that?
Not intentionally, but it did work out that way.
It's nice how things work out sometimes, right?
It is. And I know that there's going to be a lot of conspiracy here. Second set, and the picture of Drew revealing grapple has Drew's. Clearly, Drew just doing these things together, but I promise you that it was more accidental than it was intentional.
We'll believe you. We'll take your word on it, Drew. I trust you.
Great. Thank you.
So that kind of does it for me. Scott, did you have anything else you wanted to bring up?
I was wondering if any of the big shows or anything coming up, that we might be able to see you at anytime soon, if you know that it's going to fit in your schedule or anything like that.
I would say we are just a few days too early for us to have that.
Okay.
Oh no.
I know. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that you'll be able to see me publicly at some point soon.
Awesome. So I guess we don't want to keep you all afternoon.
I will be at Toy Fair. I'll be at New York Toy Fair, which is mostly a professional event, but there is a fan day, and I will be there in the Transformers booth with the new Rise of the Combiners, and we'll have Predaking there. And
please tell me it's somebody cosplaying as Predaking.
That would be lovely.
Okay.
No, I'll be in my Wizards corporate gear.
Okay.
But if any fans out there, any of your listeners, happen to have gotten lucky and gotten a ticket to Fan Day for Toy Fair, say hi to me.
Awesome. We'll definitely check it out if you can make it out there. Say hello to Drew. Is there anything else you want to bring up, Drew, before we sign off?
Only one thing, and that is I deeply appreciate giving the community the analysis, the information that you provide to the community, the general way you go about being awesome superfans has been very gratifying to see. And again, thank you both.
Well,
thank you.
Yeah, thank you both for joining us and for your efforts, John efforts, and the remainder of your team's efforts in creating and providing us this game, because, well, we wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for that. So thank you.
It is literally our pleasure. I literally live.
Well, again, thank you, Drew. Please extend our thanks to your entire team. And for everybody out there listening or watching, thank you for staying with us, and tune in next time for some more Random's Thoughts.